in a way that is founded in Judaism. And I think that the best place to do that is with young adults, high schoolers, who are at that really, I think, crucial moment of trying to figure out, does Judaism have anything to say about who I am as I figure out who I am?
Mm-hmm. On that note, can you tell me a little bit about how you see yourself as an educator?
In terms of, I'm not sure exactly how to answer that.
Sure. What are 3 adjectives that you would use to describe yourself as an educator? Or 3 things that you would use to describe yourself. It doesn't have to be an adjective.
Yeah. I would say passionate. Hands-on. And learner-centered.
And why did you choose those 3?
I feel really strongly about only teaching about things that I care about. I'm learning that I care about more things than I thought, so that's helpful. I also think the most authentic teaching comes from a place of passion and real depth of care and engagement with the subject. Hands-on. I think we don't learn anything until it's been in our bodies. I think if I learned anything at camp, it's that I can teach about Jewish values all day long, but it's not until a kid is stuck halfway up a climbing tower and his cabin mates are telling him that he can do it and he's going to be okay, that they really understand what it means to be a part of a community, to be part of a Jewish community. I just really believed in lived experience. And I think for me as an educator, I need to also be part of that experience. I shouldn't be watching the kids encouraging them. Most of the time I should be the person belaying the kid at the tower, mm-hmm. Or whatever it might be. And learner-centered, I think it's really easy as an educator when I'm passionate about something, to have my passion for something be the focus of the learning. And I think that my passion should only be a gateway to trying to figure out what the learner needs in a space, trying to figure out what it is about whatever topic it is, whether it's, learning about Exodus. What is it in Exodus that the student needs to get out of that teaching that day or that session, and how can I combine what I'm passionate about with what the student really needs from that moment, and what's going to make it matter for them so that it sticks with them and impacts them.
Mm-hmm. And in what ways do you think that PEEP influenced your choice of those 3 adjectives?
I think PEEP probably influenced them in every way. I think one was, I would describe a lot of my teachers at Pardes and in PEEP that way. Mm-hmm. Right? I think that's the beauty of learning in Chavruta, is that it's totally based on how passionate you are and how hands-on you are, and it's completely learner-centered because the Chavruta gets to drive the learning in that space. I also think that the educators that were brought in to work with us, who are working in the field, are all people who also embody a lot of those things and teach in that way. And I think a lot of it goes back to this kind of exploration of what's my mission as an educator. And again, because I feel passionate about leadership, I think my idea of what it means to be a leader is not so different from my idea of what it means to be an educator.
What is that to you? What is it to be a leader?
I think leadership also, ideally should be passionate and hands-on and maybe not learner-centered, but team-centered, partnership-centered, or mission-driven, organizationally centered.
Mm-hmm. And you may have touched on this, like, in your response to how you describe yourself as an educator and, like, what you were telling me before. But I'll ask you and you can choose, like, to add things or tell me that it's redundant. How do you conceptualize and think about experiential education?
An excellent question. One I think about a lot. I think that for me, experiential education, at the crux of it is figuring out how to move something from something that is known to something that is felt and lived. I think in some ways, I think that, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. I'm not even always sure that experiential is the right word for experiential education, because I think that it makes it seem like we're going to create a false experience, and a learner will participate in the false experience that's been created, and thereby will learn. And I actually think it's less about the scenario that we've set up or the program that a learner is participating in, as it is about opportunities for connection and opportunities for synthesis. And I think, to me, that is what experiential education is about, is that regardless of the scenario, that the learner is synthesizing what they're hearing, thinking, feeling, doing, seeing, and believing. I really believe in whole person learning. I think that for me is what experiential learning is all about. And I can build 1,000 different scenarios, but if at the end of the day the learner hasn't moved from the thing that they've been taught to the thing that they know inside of themselves, then it doesn't matter what experience they've had. I think that is crucial for me, is how do I feel about what I know, and how do I act now that I know what I know?
And what does it look like? Like you gave the example of sort of campers like cheering on a person at the top of a like obstacle course. But what else? How else does it look? Like what else does it look like when you've accomplished that?
Sure. I mean, I think that partially depends on what you're teaching. I think for me, so much of it is, are they asking new questions? I don't really think my job as an educator is necessarily to give people answers, but to help them ask the right questions and help them figure out where to go to look for answers for themselves. So are they asking new questions? Have they made a decision to either do something or not do something based on what they've learned and experienced? So that might be that we did a program about Shabbat and about all of the different parts of Shabbat, and maybe that learner, maybe that they don't decide to keep Shabbat or to celebrate Shabbat every week, but maybe they decide that they're going to light candles every week. And not just because they're supposed to, but because they connected to something in what we did around candle lighting. I think actions. And I think that part of it is it's about how the learner will interact in a similar space the next time. So for example, I think like with the kids at the tower, I think part of that is not only like what will they do in that moment, but what happens the next time they're playing soccer with their secular intramural team. How are they gonna treat their teammates? What are they gonna do when the person next to them in class fails a test? and how do they apply those lessons